What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. I know it's been a while since I've been able to post. Things have been crazy with the holidays and finally getting an opportunity to actually create a video for you all. So it's a cold day here in Florida, but braving the weather so that we can talk about something new on today's video. So as a Turo host, what are some things that you can expect when it comes to cleanliness, when it comes to when a car comes back and what it will look like, or what things can you look out for when you get a car back from your renter? So I'll kind of go in a step-by-step process from the most clean to the absolute least clean and what you can do about it depending on what situation you ultimately have with your car when you receive it from your renter. So the very first and probably the most ideal when you receive a vehicle from your renter is one that is just as clean as you left it. That's obviously our hope, our goal. One thing you can expect when you are renting out these vehicles is they're to some degree going to be messy. Sometimes you will have the pleasure of getting a vehicle back that looks exactly the same as the way you left it, but think about when you've rented a car from Hertz or Enterprise or any of these major rental companies, there wasn't an expectation for you to have to vacuum out a car, make it look immaculate in order to drop it off. You've returned cars with things on the carpet, things in the center console, little specks of food, dirt, things of that nature. That's something you can expect with these cars. But there is the occasional time when someone will bring a car to you and it looks absolutely immaculate, like it has never been driven. It's only gone a few miles and the car is pretty much the same way you left it when you gave it to them. I'll tell you that is an absolutely amazing thing when you get it, because there's very little prep work that you have to do. But one thing you do want to think about is making sure that the car is cleaned, at least to some degree, cleaning things like the steering wheel, the gear shifter, the door handles, the windows. Those are still things that even when I receive a car that's just as clean as when I left it, I will go through and clean it, because you literally never know. Obviously, bacteria can still get to someone. They still can transmit viruses from contact. So it is still important to some degree to grab a wet cloth with some interior cleaner and just lightly clean around some of those commonly touched areas in the car. Sometimes you'll get a car that's not only dirty on the inside, but also on the outside. Maybe it's been on a dirt road. Maybe it's got mud on the outside. Maybe there's sand or dirt on the inside of the car. There are some things that you can do to mitigate some of those things to help yourself in terms of prep, in terms of being most efficient when cleaning your car and having it ready for the next rental. Now, those can be things like getting rubber floor mats or WeatherTech floor mats. Every single one of these cars that you see here all have rubber floor mats, WeatherTech or WeatherTech similar floor mats that protect the carpet from getting any sort of dirt or debris embedded inside of it. That does not mean that you cannot remove the floor mats, or you should not remove the floor mats and actually clean the carpet. There is dirt that gets underneath those floor mats and gets into the carpet. So I do inevitably always pull the floor mats out and make sure that the carpet is cleaned underneath as well. Because we ultimately not only want to make the car ready for the next renter, but we want to preserve the overall value of the car. I have had cars come back that have had sand inside of them all throughout the car, that have been driven on dirt roads, that had mud inside the wheel wells or underneath the car. Again, I'm not talking about full-on stains that are inside the car that you actually have to put effort to clean, that's outside of a traditional vacuum. I'm referring to things that you can flip on a vacuum, it will clean it up, dirt on the outside of the car, something that a simple wash can ultimately take care of. Now, the next tier is kind of getting a little more into the abusive territory from a renter's perspective. So things like there are stains on the seat, there's evidence of pet hair when you don't allow pets in the car, or evidence of tobacco or some type of smoking product when all of these vehicles are supposed to be non-smoking. That has definitely happened. That has happened to me on several occasions, and you have to know how to be able to mitigate those problems and be able to be prepared for the next rental so that there is no disruption in your business when you run into things like that. The fact is, you want to prepare. for the possibility that this can happen. You can't really decide based on the renter when it's going to happen. It can really honestly come up anytime. The more you have at your arsenal in terms of being able to clean the vehicle and knowing how to deal with the previous rental to help compensate for what has occurred on that particular rental that was not supposed to have happened, you are in a better position at that point to continue moving along with your business without having any problems when you run into a situation like this. So the biggest topic, I think, out of all of this, more than pet hair, more than stains on the seat or the carpet, more than anything, is weed or tobacco smell. It is not an if, it is a when. So you will inevitably deal with it. It will inevitably happen in one of your cars, or if you only have one car, it will inevitably happen in that car. There are things that you can do in order to help you get rid of the smell and be able to continue on. But before we get into the cleaning portion of it, let's talk about what to do with the actual rental itself. It is extremely, extremely important prior to your rental beginning to take pre-trip photos and extensive pre-trip photos. So take photos of the exterior of the car, documenting any damage that you see that you think may be important to document in the trip photos, going inside of the vehicle and taking pictures of everything that you think would be important as well. I go around and take photos of the interior all the way to the side panels right before the door. So I make sure and take pictures all the way around, so that way I'm documenting what the car looks like before it leaves. This is going to be critically important for when you are bringing the vehicle back. So let's say you do have a situation where there may be something like evidence of marijuana inside of the vehicle. The most important thing that you're going to want to do is take extensive photos within 24 hours of the trip ending. So you want to gather as much of the evidence inside of the car as you can. Now, odors, unfortunately, are not something that can be chargeable to the renter. So you can inevitably get a car that smells like it, that has no evidence of it, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. That's where we'll get into the prep and the cleaning portion of it, so that way you will be ready for that next rental if that occurs. But if you do have evidence, then you want to take as many of those photos as you possibly can. Now, know that Turo is kind of the middleman for yourself. They are the platform that ultimately will charge these renters if you run into situations like that. Now again, you don't want to be extensively charge happy and go after renters and try to charge them for things that didn't exist. But if this occurs for you, you want to make sure and have as much pictures and documentation as you possibly can, and you will be ready to send the invoice to the renter for an excessive cleaning fee. The maximum you can charge a renter is $250 at the end of the trip. You will want to look at the terms of service and find out what tier this vehicle is at for you to be able to qualify for that. You do not just want to throw in the $250 charge without looking at the terms of service and making sure that it is eligible for that charge. Now, in my experience, in which it's been a very short time that I've actually been renting these cars out, most of the time when you're going to be sending in a charge like that for something like tobacco usage in the car, typically the renter is not going to happily be paying for that, because it is not expected, it's not part of their charges. So they're going to either dispute it or they're going to ignore it. This is where your evidence will really need to come into play, because Turo is going to look at all of the photos. They're going to check to see if everything was documented, if extensive pre-trip photos were taken, what the car looks like post-trip, and they ultimately make a determination on whether you are going to be compensated for what has occurred in the vehicle or not. As long as you have the evidence to back yourself up, you're not going to run into any issues with actually collecting funds for the charges. Now, depending on how well versed you are with vehicle detailing, you may feel like you can do some of these things, but these are some of the things that I have done in order to eliminate the smells from the vehicle and eliminate all the evidence. Now, the very first thing that you're going to want to do is clean the car by vacuuming it. So you're going to want to give it a thorough vacuuming on the inside. What you will not want to do is go in with cleaner and start cleaning all of the panels right off the bat if you are planning on using something like an ozone machine. In my experience, an ozone machine does a fantastic job of actually getting the smells out of the vehicle, So that is something that I will typically use. What I will do is I will go through, vacuum the vehicle, use the interior cleaner. I will allow the interior cleaner to dry before I make any attempt to use the ozone machine, because the ozone machine will attach itself to any moisture that's inside of the car. So you really don't want to be cleaning the panels and then immediately throwing the ozone machine in the car. You will want the interior cleaner that you used to dry if you did anything with the carpets or the seats. And the last part that I want to talk about, after you've gone through and cleaned all that you can, there is inevitably going to be some times when the car may still have a little bit of that lingering odor. And this is where I think the EQ skills, or your connection with your renters kind of comes into play. If you can't get the smell out of the car before the next renter is going to take the car over, I believe in transparency. And that is what I have done at times when I had a renter coming to pick up the car. I would give them a call, or I would send them a message and say, hey, here's the situation. This is not typical for any of my cars, but I wanted to be transparent and just let you know. Don't try to mask it. Don't try to make it seem like you don't have a problem with the car, or the smell is gone, or the car still seems immaculate. By all means, feel free to bring somebody over to the car and have them give it this quick, hey, can you check to see if this still smells? Because honestly, for me and my perfectionism, I sometimes believe that the cars still don't smell good. So I'll bring a neighbor over and I'll say, hey, do you smell anything? And they'll tell me no. And I realize it's all in my head. So it is always good to maybe have somebody check before you ultimately make a decision on what you're going to do next, because sometimes it may be all in your head because you've just been working in this car for the past several hours trying to clean it, depending on what you've been dealing with. Now that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. And I know that I was going to reveal what vehicle is being rented, so we'll do it right now. If you haven't looked at it yet, it's a 2019 Jeep Renegade. It is an awesome car, a fun car. I will put a link to it in the description, so that way you are more than welcome to take a look at it and see what kind of features it has. It does have removable night sky panels, so that you can kind of have removable Jeep type stuff in a Jeep vehicle. I've never owned a Jeep before. Hopefully that is something, if you are in the Jacksonville area and would like to rent a car, you can enjoy that. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. If you are in the Jacksonville area and would like to rent a vehicle, AtchooRentals.com is a fantastic place to go to rent everything from large minivans to little convertibles that's just chilling in the 40-degree Florida weather. And support your fellow Turo hosts in your area. If you are looking for a rental car, I would encourage you to look in any area where you are living and see if there is a car that appeals to your interest, and take the chance. You might be surprised and enjoy the experience. If you don't, send me a quick message and let me know what you went through. Thanks again for watching, and have a great week.